Welcome to the Town of Bolton Board of Selectmen meeting Tuesday, April 1st, 2025. This is no joke.
No.
6:30 PM. Town Hall and Zoom. April Fools. This is Zoom or in person. I'd like to call the meeting to order, and first we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance.
Sorry, that's okay.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody, for coming tonight. First on the list is, we have a town employee who's been with us for how long?
21 years,
20.
22.
Dennis Griffin, and we would like to give him this proclamation as a thank you for working for the town of Bolton and for his great services. Do you want me to read this?
Yeah, that would be wonderful.
All right. Whereas Dennis Griffin, crewman 2 for the town of Bolton, retired on January 31st, 2025, after 21 years of outstanding service to the town of Bolton. And whereas Dennis began his career with the town as a crewman 1 and through diligent efforts and dedication advanced to crewman 2. And whereas he has performed his duties throughout his years of service in a conscientious and responsible manner. And whereas he has consistently responded with ingenuity, imagination, and foresight to the duties and responsibilities given to him, fulfilling them with accuracy and competency. And whereas Dennis has set an example of dedication to principle, which has been an inspiration to his fellow employees, and whereas he, in all of his endeavors, has reflected great credit upon the Bolton Highway Department and the town of Bolton, therefore be it resolved that the members of the Board of Selectmen do hereby extend to Dennis Griffin our sincere and grateful appreciation for his dedication, service to the Bolton Highway Department and to the town of Bolton. Our congratulations on his well-earned retirement and our best wishes for him and his family for continued success, happiness, and good health in the years to come. This was adopted at the town of Bolton this 4th day of February 2025 by the Bolton Board of Selectmen. So whoever wrote that. They did a much better job than I would have.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dennis.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, my friend.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dennis. Thank you.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, Dennis, just hang around a minute. Having had the honor of working with this gentleman for the whole time he's been here, out there in some of the worst miserable snowstorms you can imagine, under incredible circumstances, never stopped, never slowed down, and never complained. He just went out there, did his job, and did it well. You're gonna be sorely missed, personally and by the town. Thanks again for all you did.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Next, number 4 is public comment on any subject that's not listed on the agenda. Is there any takers? Anybody online? Nope. Yep.
I know we're limiting this to 2 minutes, so I wrote it down so that I wouldn't stray. I tend to be too wordy, so I just wanted to write it down so that I wouldn't stray.
Okay.
Can you just get closer to the microphone so Casey can hear you?
Oh, sure.
And make sure
And your name and address for the
Either that
record,
or the
please.
other.
So my name is Don Perito. I live at 15 Vernon Road, and I'm here to speak on behalf of many of the residents of Vernon Road, which, as you all probably know, it's a cut through by Bolton Lake. And I've lived on Vernon Road for 5 years. And I know the houses on it were all built, many decades ago in times when things moved a lot slower. The houses and parking areas are, basically feet from the roadway. And so you can imagine dodging, speeding cars to grab your mail, put out the garbage or take groceries from the trunk. You're trying to manipulate around speeding cars. Everyone I've asked on Vernon Road is in favor of some type of action. So, you know, we wanted to ask the Board of Selectmen, you know, if we could at some point do a study on traffic calming measures to make our streets safer. You know, I'm thinking maybe there's grants available for this against the background of, you know, many of the recent safety initiatives in the state. And I know Andover did some things like this successfully by their lake. And I know the speed limit on Vernon Road is 25, but living there, you know, the speeding is pretty rampant. In the past 10 years, I know there's been 12 accidents, and the ones I've seen were all tied to excessive speed. Residents, you know, are afraid of the speed. My neighbor Connie, you know, she broke her hip. She was afraid to get her mail, you know. So it really simply isn't an option. I think, you know, the road would be a beautiful place to walk, I think, for people, especially in the fall, you know, with the moon on the lake, and the view is incredible, you know. So I think that the resource is underutilized because people are afraid to walk on the road. And, you know, but we don't want to guess at solutions. You know, we're thinking more of a professional study to identify what would work. You know, there could be speed tables, chicanes, I think that's how it's pronounced. You know, I had one of the neighbors even suggest maybe making it a dead end. I don't know if that's even feasible, but, you know, that would be possible, you know, to do. But every resident that I've spoken to walking up and down the street supports it. And we do have the signed petitions, which I'll leave to the board with the secretary, you know, people all in favor of it on Vernon Road. You know, I don't think 2 minutes is enough to really list every close call or incident, but just this past fall, you know, we had a really pretty good crash right in front of our house. We were watching a movie, it was Friday night, we heard a big bang, we all ran outside, you know, and a car had been going too fast and slipped on the leaves and hit the telephone pole right directly in front of our house. You know, I still have the spare tire in my attic from that occurrence. So, you know, I would just say, you know, as Edmund Burke, you know, the famous political philosopher, he said this: the true lawmakers are the stewards of the citizens. So, you know, we would ask respectfully the Board of Selectmen to, you know, to be our stewards and help make Vernon Road safe. You know, so I'd like to thank you.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else? Yes.
Can I offer this to the secretary or to the board?
Yeah.
We were here anyway.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Hi, my name is Ellie King. I live at 149 Brandy Street. I also wrote mine down, so sorry for reading. I just first wanted to voice my support for the traffic calming request on Vernon Road. And then I also just wanted to highlight a few things that I found in Bolton's Plan of Conservation and Development. It's a document that's available on the Bolton Town website under Planning and Zoning. And for anyone who maybe is not familiar or hasn't seen it in a while, it was adopted in 2015. And there's a lot of strategies outlined there intended to guide the future conservation and development of Bolton. And in the document, it says the overall goal has been to maintain the high quality of life in Bolton and make our community an even better place in the future. And it also says that the strategies in the plan reflect input from Bolton residents. I think it's a really awesome plan, and I just wanted to highlight a few key things. On page 82, it specifically says continue to address locations on local roads where unsafe or hazardous conditions may arise. And I think that kind of directly relates to what we just heard about Vernon Road. It also says a lot of things about supporting provisions for walking and bicycles, you know, especially encouraging more pedestrian and bicycle use, creating an overall system. It highlights the fact that Bolton is at a regional crossroads of bicycle and pedestrian trails and calls out specifically that, you know, this can encourage additional economic development. A few other key points that it highlights are improving pedestrian connections and trails, creating a comprehensive greenway systems that interconnect areas, and making better trail connections to Bolton Center. So I guess just to summarize, you know, the current plan of conservation and development specifically states that you want to continue to address locations on local roads where unsafe or hazardous conditions may arise. And just, it appears that, you know, since this plan was put together with the support and input of Bolton residents, the town, and the Planning and Zoning Board, I would make the assumption that we are all generally supportive of these types of policies. This plan was, you know, formally adopted after a public hearing. So just wanted to reiterate, that these are things that people seem to want. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Is there anybody else?
I'm gonna come up to the table so I can hang out if I need to. So Barbara Amodio, 50 Volpe Road. First, I really want to thank all of you for all of the hours that you donate to our town to keep it safe and to do all of the business of the community that we all sit at home and watch our TVs while you're doing it, and it's really appreciated. Don't think it's not. And on behalf of Bike Walk Bolton, I also want to thank you for giving us the opportunity to be included on your very busy agenda. And our group, Bike Walk Bolton, has the luxury of only focusing on a single agenda, and that is to promote safer ways for community members to walk, run, and bike around town. We believe that safer streets will promote a shared sense of community, and it is in keeping with the vibrant community initiative that originated in 2013 with a committee of 100 or so Bolton community members and was to be used as the blueprint for the future of Bolton. You probably all have seen that. We want to recognize, though, and thank this board and previous boards for all of the work that you have already done to make Bolton a safer place for people to walk, run, and bike. In particular, your support of the connecting trail from the Charter Oak Greenway, your installation of signs warning people to share the road with cyclists, your insistence that the DOT paint crosswalks at their signaled crossings on Route 44, making the trail crossing at Steele's Crossing safer, and the creation of the connectivity trail from the firehouse to the town hall, soon to be from the elementary school to the high school. With all else that you have on your agenda, we are extremely grateful that you have taken the time to create these safe spaces that align with the state's complete streets and Vision Zero. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.
Thanks, Barbara.
Thank you.
So if that's it for public comment? No?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Claire Fazina, I'm a member of the Library Board of Trustees. And in your packet, I think you found our proposal to create a fine-free library in Connecticut.
So you're on the agenda, number 7?
I thought it was under correspondence. Kathy said make a public comment, so, but I can wait until number 7.
Yeah, if you would. Yeah,
Okay.
otherwise we
No problem.
go out of line here
Okay.
too much. Is there anybody else for public comment? Okay, is there someone that needs to make?
Mr. Chairman, I need to ask the board for their indulgence to open the agenda, please. Under appointments, we have 2 reappointments that have come forward to us that we'd like to add to the agenda to the Ethics Commission. And that would be number B would be, I'd like to add Matthew Wright for a reappointment. It was January 2025 time frame, so it's another 4 years. And he has agreed and is willing to serve. And then C would be Ellen Barnes, and she is a reappointment to the Ethics Commission as well for another 4-year term.
Second that.
Any discussion? All in favor?
How many members are on the board?
6-member board, two Republicans, 2 Democrats, and 2 unaffiliated.
Thank you.
All in favor of adding it to the agenda? That's 7 yes. Okay, so now we go on to number 5, Bike Walk Bolton presentation.
Thank you.
Okay.
So as I mentioned earlier, Rodney, I'll try to keep this as short as possible to the rest of the board as well. I'll try to be as brief with our message. My name is Bryce Aronson. I live at 149 Brandy Street. I'm very appreciative of the time and I'd like to really utilize our time. So, I believe this is allowed to be a dialogue, correct? So if there are questions, feel free to interject or, cut me off to really make sure that we utilize this time, with brevity, but it's enriching as well. Oh, I jumped ahead 2 slides already. We're cruising then.
Is he going too fast?
No, this is great, thank you. So the primary intention of us presenting today is to pitch a complete streets plan. And I'll elaborate a little bit more in both the need and the, and the intent for that. But, starting with from 2015 to 2024, there were 894 crashes in Bolton, 8 of those fatal. And, I know there's a lot to that, but really highlighting that there are steps that can be taken that would mitigate this, that are low cost, are limited intervention, that, could be discussed and achieved, that we could limit those fatalities. The high crash rate in Bolton causes, is a cause of unsafe roads, and it puts pedestrians and cyclists at risk. And it's important to note that the roads in our town, as rural as we are, were built around cars as the primary means of user. And so really moving forward, noting that we have multimodal transportation, that there are walkers, there are bikers, there are, whatever, and making sure that any plans in the future consider that multimodal. And then, an important thing, and I know Bike Walk Bolton has been talking about this for a while, but noting that there is a bit of a lack of connection to the town. There is almost 2 Boltons. There's a lakeside and there's the other. So, considering ways to integrate those as well as we move forward. So complete streets, I'm going to just read this, but I'll read it, not too slowly, is an approach to planning, designing, building, operating, and maintaining streets that enable safe access for all people who need to use them, including motorists, pedestrians, bicyclists, and transit riders of all ages and abilities. It helps make it easier for, my wife and I with our 10-month old baby to walk on the street, to walk our dogs on the street. It helps to open up some of the shops, the varying small business districts of Bolton to be integrated more, not just from a car perspective, and then allows us to bicycle as well. I work at UConn and I would really like to be able to bicycle to work, and I don't want to die doing so. So, starting with one step of Bolton, I know it's other towns to get there, but, got to start here. So, to be specific too, complete streets is a planning approach. It's not a one-size-fits-all policy. It is something that, is engaged with dialogue and with intent, and it considers all users, but it's not something that, we are not prescriptive. We are not saying that this needs to happen and what this is. We would just like consideration on that. And the primary intent is to make it easier and safe to cross the street, to walk to school, to bicycle to the library. Next slide, please. So according to a 2021 study, designing streets for pedestrian travel can reduce accidents by about 70%, which is pretty significant if you think of the 894, 70% of that. I'm not good at math that quickly, but safer conditions created by complete streets projects avoid a total of $18.1 million in collisions and injury cost in 1 year alone. And this is just one study that we're referencing here, but there are many studies that demonstrate complete street approaches reduce traffic incidences and make roads safer for all users. Another benefit of this cost reduction too. Next slide, please. So complete streets benefit everyone. There's just a corresponding nature and, greater integration, a greater accessness to it that, there are studies that support that the results in higher housing values when communities are walkable and bikeable. So good for our grand list and, good for everyone, a rising tide lifts all boats kind of thing. Our capital region COG did a survey which said 80% of respondents agree on the need for more places where people can walk rather than drive. And greater walkability equals higher property values for office retail in addition to residential properties. And greater walkability makes a town more desirable place to live and helps to build connections with your neighbors. And I'd like to emphasize on this point. My wife and I moved here 2 years ago. And as we were looking, anywhere east of the river, one of the main draws to Bolton was both its rural nature, its nice school district, and its access to the Hop River Trail. I want to be able to leave my house and get on the trail, and that brought us here. So I'd like to, see more of an integration on that more cognizant planning, for people that are a little less willing to ride on on the road that I might be too. Next slide, please, Jim. And so complete streets are different for everyone. What's going to work in Manchester or what's going to work in Andover might not work here. So, and I think it's important to emphasize here too, that we do appreciate the rural nature of Bolton. And we want to, we would like to make sure that this plan maintains rural character. But it can also coexist with the complete streets plan. So, and just kind of emphasizing here, our context and our needs are different. So, what they did in Manchester for complete streets plan and what Andover did, which I'm going to mention in just a moment, they're going to be different. Next slide, please. So, just kind of reiterating the community connections, the openness. This is the heart of complete streets, really, is fostering community. This means making walkable and bikeable connections between where people live, where they want to go, such as a park, school, town, the town hall or library. And, I would like to really note and commend the town and Mr. Rupert as well for, from what I understand, you played an integral role in the connectivity and the walking trails. So I would like to thank you for that. This is all, that would be a component of a complete streets plan too. So just thank you. That is really the start of what we're looking for. And then, so just for Andover, for comparison, next one, please. Andover adopted a complete streets master plan in August 2016. And according to their plan, using complete streets thinking is a low-cost way to improve quality of life for Andover residents. And Andover is, of course, an example of a similar town with rural charm that has successfully adopted a complete streets plan without compromising the rural aesthetic. And as if you look and through their plan, you'll see that they've focused heavily on community connection. And it's important to take away from their plan that they had lots of funding success. They were able to do, multiple things from what I understand, and connecting the town hall, the senior center, and the primary school to the rail trail, as well as completing connections from the rail trail to the library, church, and sports fields on the other side of Route 6. So, as a potential comparison, that's awesome. And, something that, we would like to note and have considered should such a plan be considered by the board. And I'll try to go along. I don't know what my time is here, Ron. You have to give me a sideways look yet. So I'll try to be, just a couple more things too. And and the next slide is really, I think, what you're probably thinking is, okay, so what is this going to cost us? And they're relatively low cost. They're significantly less than conventional transportation projects, yet can still deliver transportation benefits. And if you were to say, what would this cost us right now? I don't know. We haven't done the plan. So, the plan itself is a relatively, it just takes time and effort of people that know what we're doing. And we will offer to help that as best we can as well to, help ease the financial burden on the town. But in Andover's plan, they highlight frequently the inexpensive and cost-effective nature. And, I think conveniently as well, right? These are big bang or big bang for your buck, rather, is what the words I'm looking for. Lots of visibility that don't require a lot of outlay. Now I'm just gonna hit the next slide to just kind of keep us moving here too. So here are some things that are in the 2015 Bolton Plan of Conservation and Development that were already either proposed or adopted and implemented that are part of a complete streets plan. So, the Planning and Zoning Board, with the support of the Board of Selectmen too in 2015, had implemented many of the suggestions that we would like to see come out of such a plan. So just noting, and I suppose commending to our 2015, Gwen, I don't know if you were involved in that or not.
I don't know. Maybe.
Yes. So next slide, please. I'll just keep moving. So why formalize a complete streets plan? For a few reasons. They align with state law and policy, part of Vision Zero that Barbara mentioned earlier. and complete streets is now the law. So the benefits to explicitly solidifying this, as I'm sure you're all aware, is that state and federal funding to help pay for complete streets initiatives are more successful if a complete streets plan has been fully adopted by a town. And I understand too, that if you're using state resources to implement any type of improvement, it is a requirement to have that on town. I might be wrong on that, but I think it's
The
some
project at least has to comply.
Okay. Right, and so having this plan formalized would not only comply, but would help to, guide a plan more constructively and inclusively as well. So I just have two things before I wrap, and I, again, very much appreciate your time. So next slide, please, Jim. Is we would like to offer our assistance in this as well to help ease the financial burden on this. We have a lot of folks that have a lot of familiarity with some of the other complete streets that have been done around to assist in any type of dialogue. So, especially should this Board of Selectmen think this is worthwhile, and, not exactly how it works, if that you make a suggestion to planning and zoning to consider this, or if there is an intention to renew the 2015 Planning and Conservation Development Plan for 2025. I'm not sure if that's intended. It looked like there was a 2005 plan too. So I'm not sure if it's an every 10-year thing or whatever, but then having this be a part of it as well. So, right, we hope this is not the last we really discuss in this. We'd like to just bring it up to you explicitly, have a dialogue in the future or now on what next steps might be and how we could assist with that. Just two more things before I cede my time to. I just want a quick look at some of my friends here for a show of hands on how many of you are supportive and attending because of our Bike Walk Bolton initiatives too. Thank you. And then, there are binders, and also I am submitting, this is really Vernon focused, but other stories from other members of town that have shared an anecdote about when they have felt unsafe walking or being on the roads.
Oh, okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all for coming. Do we have any questions? Yes, Gwen.
On your second to last slide, it said complete streets is the law. What do you mean by that?
I'm gonna look at,
So I think that was just referring to, what we were talking about with the state. If you get funding from the state, it has to consider, comply with with their complete streets.
Okay, but there's no law that requires towns to adopt a complete street.
No,
Plan.
no, that's not what we were trying to say.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Sorry.
There
No,
are,
that's okay.
there's a bunch of, additional references.
oh, yes,
There's,
thank you.
I don't know, a handful of slides that are appendices. And
If you could
there's
help
a
to
press
circulate
release
that.
from the state that talks about, what we meant by that.
Okay, good. And second question is, what kind of a person wrote Andover's plan? Did they hire a consultant? Did they do it themselves or?
Sylvia, right now, she's on.
I think that question.
I can answer that question if you can hear me.
Yes, we can.
Eric Anderson wrote the plan before he was actually town administrator. That's how it happened. He did it as a volunteer.
Remember that.
As a town administrator.
You had asked me to reach out to Eric one time recently in the past, and he had explained that he had done it on his own initiative, and it took him hundreds and hundreds of hours.
So, okay, and then also here is the full Andover Complete Streets plan as well.
Thank you.
Oh, okay. Is that the one Eric did?
Yes, right, I believe so. Yes, by Eric Anderson.
Yeah.
Town Administrator. Any other questions? from
Can I make
the board?
a comment?
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the Complete Streets plan, when Eric was making this in 2016, he was charting some new territories and there was less understanding about what Complete Streets plans are. However, there are many dozens of towns in the state of Connecticut now that have adopted them, and most of those plans are available. So we do have, the town of Bolton does have those resources, including the Andover plan that you have right now, to help build a Complete Streets plan for Bolton. So it wouldn't be so much from scratch that Eric had to start from in 2015 when he was starting this work, when it was adopted in 2016. So just, I think it'll be easier to do that now than it was when Eric was doing that almost 10 years ago.
To add to that, the Capital Region COG has, they have adopted the Complete Streets Plan, and they have resources for their member municipalities who are interested in adopting their own and putting together their own plan. So those resources would be available to us as well.
I think those were my slides. I forgot that, so.
Oh, is there any other comments, questions?
I mean, it's hard to find a downside with making streets safer. I guess it's just where do you start and what specific, like, doable things, you know, making a plan for actual improvements like the pathway that we did, or, you know, what's the next step is the question, right? And that's
Right,
so
so,
comes up with the plan and how do we, it sounds like there's money available and having this policy would help us gain grants, but I guess it's just a matter of who has, you know.
I think Sylvia's got an answer for you there.
In part, how Eric started his plan, and I've talked to him at length about this, is he actually went out in the community of Andover and interviewed people that were out and about. And he started with the question, where do you want to go and how are you getting there? And how would you like to get there? And that's how he actually started the connectivity initiatives and the ideas that went into that Complete Streets Plan. So I think it's definitely a process. And as Bryce said, every town is a little bit different. And certain towns will have different agendas and different things that the people of that town want. So I think a good starting place would be to talk to the residents of Bolton and find out what are their issues, how do they want to get from place to place, and what places do they want to get to from where they live, and how they want to move about the town. And that is, you know, one of the big aspects of Complete Streets plans is connectivity and getting people to where they want to go, and maybe not always by car, to think about how to do that on foot. So there, you know, we have a beautiful example, as you've all mentioned, and we see and use in Bolton, you know, through the center of town now. That's one concept. So I think working with the people of the town is one way to start, but it is a process, and that will take time.
Thank you.
Just
Barbara?
I wouldn't mind seeing the town start with Vernon Road as a prototype for the whole thing, because there's an obvious need there. I was passed when I was doing the cut through at the speed limit, driving the people behind me crazy, and someone passed me on that road. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So I would like to see Vernon Road as a prototype, just.
Okay. Is there,
And some lady on
Yeah.
her way over
is there any other comments, questions?
on our road.
Thank you again.
Then thank you very much for coming out. We will work on a thought process for this. I don't know where we're gonna go with it.
Should we come back or?
I don't know, are we gonna take up anything on it tonight?
We can't.
I can't.
Yeah, I think something, this is something that is not a shoot from the hip project. Haven't been involved with a few of those that are they just go down the tubes and disappear. But I think the board processes in the past have started off with one of our subcommittees initially looking at that, so there's at least a starting point for this to go forward. Obviously, Andover's plan is always helpful. One of the things that the uniqueness that we have that adds to difficulty is the way the town is divided by an interstate in two major highways that create circumstances that are exceedingly difficult to contend with. And I comment on that just because I looked at your statistical data on accidents and deaths. I would say 80% of those are on state highways, including the Interstate 6 and 44. And very, very few of those are on our town roads. And you may have that data, but my percentage might be off. But I'll guarantee that's a significant part of what we contend with. And also, just following that up is this board, previous boards and previous boards have tried to work with the state of Connecticut to have them initiate some of these improvements you've talked about. This is nothing, what you're asking for is nothing new is being created. I mean, many of us have looked at this situation before and fully agree with what you're saying is. And we've always had insisted, some of our worst situation has been the state of Connecticut roads. And trying to get them to do anything with it has been difficult. And that's one of the issues that tie in, but all that means is that when a plan is put together, it's a little more complex than just dealing with our own town roads. That's where I'm going with this. That's why it's gonna take some time and quite a bit of effort.
We
And
could
as,
start with the town.
I say again,
You could start with the town roads.
well, you always do,
Yeah.
but that does, but you can't, you can't create a policy for one spot, one instances. When you create a policy, because you end up with the circumstances that you didn't anticipate, and if you're gonna make a plan, you plan for everyone. That doesn't mean, Barbara, that we won't deal with that one. But that may not, that's gonna be way ahead before any plan is developed. That's where we're going with that.
What do you mean with what one? With Vernon Road?
Yeah,
Oh, no, but that's fine. I'm saying though, but you can look at all the town roads.
oh,
All
yeah.
the town, because that's not the only road that has issues, it's scary to walk around town right now. So, yeah, so the complete streets would not just be for Vernon Road. I just thought that might be a good little bug we could get our town people to look at and say, wow, look what's going on there. And, can we have that too, kind of thing? But I understand that. The whole mess with the state
Yeah,
roads, I get
And,
that.
and each have their own individual
Problem.
problems and circumstances, but we can.
Yeah, inversely, and I'll be very quick too, or considering that as a separate issue, as Vernon Road is having, a petition signed by 70% of their members that say they are horrified to be on the road. And having our complete streets proposal, or whatever you wanna call it, be a separate thing, but, we're really addressing what they see as exigent health circumstances on their road
Yeah.
as more.
Okay, last comment?
Just addressing the point that most of the crashes are on the state highways. I think if you look at the map that Kim just brought up, it shows that it's not the case that all the crashes and the fatalities are on the
Oh, you don't
highway.
say all,
There's a
I
lot
say
of-
you haven't been in,
But a
haven't
substantial-
had to respond to it.
substantial proportion
Yeah,
are residential.
I understand that, but you should be, everything should be in perspective. I think it's only fair. I don't
Can I
feel,
just wrap
because,
this up?
because if I may finish?
Yes.
What I'm saying was, that bit of projection suggested that it was the town roads where that was happening. All of it. And that's simply not the case. It's not. Am I right?
800.
That those accidents and those deaths were. Yeah, I mean, it simply said that they were in Bolton. It didn't distinguish it whether they were our town roads and this and that. And I felt it's important, people listening to say, holy cow, 800 and some accidents, all on town roads? No, not true.
It didn't,
So-
so to be clear, I don't believe the slide said on town roads, it said on roads in town, which
I
is
know
very
that, but
different.
I'm saying it should be you should at least identify that so many were on state roads, so many on town.
Right.
Just to be fair, so people understand that.
Because we have no
right.
control on the state roads. Amanda,
So I personally haven't looked at the plans. I'd like to dive into them to see what pieces are part of those plans, right? I've created plenty of plans in my day, and so I've already, I could probably pull together a table of contents for what I expect to be in there, which might not be accurate. Unfortunately, I haven't been on the board that long, about a year now, a year and a half, and I do hear a lot of the challenges and why we can't do things. And I would like us to focus more as a board on what we can do, understanding that I think everybody in the room sees challenges and understands there's challenges. And we can't let those stop us from making any type of progress. And I think we have seen so many people from Bike Walk Bolton come here and express themselves. And I think that we need to leverage their expertise and their willingness to help, because there's no way any of us are going to pull together this plan on our own. And so, I think ultimately, eventually, we may want to create a new subcommittee that is largely members of the public with 1 or 2 members from the board who are able to serve as a liaison back and forth. It obviously needs more talk, but it's not just Bike Walk Bolton. We've had other members of the community come in and speak about their roads, not just Vernon Road, but West Street and Bolton Center Road and Hebron Road. So it is, I think, more and more we're hearing about the safety of the roads in our town. And I think it behooves us to pay more attention to it and start somewhere.
Thank you.
That's great.
No one disagrees with that. I think.
Yeah.
This is where the, ready for, crashes, this is where the data came from. I've been in correspondence with Eric Jackson. We see on the news a lot when there's all the crashes all over the state. He's the
Okay,
man in charge of the state database.
Thank you.
So I pulled a lot of information directly from his, emails.
okay,
I
thank
just
you.
wanted to add that in there.
Thank
All
you.
right.
Sorry.
Okay.
Something.
Moving on to number 6, the appointments. Thank you, everybody.
I'd just like to say, Mr. Chairman, a very
Yes.
special thank you for all the data, for all the time and effort, and coordinating everything together. It's very impressive and we're very grateful.
Thank you.
Thank you all for your service.
Thank you.
Even though I questioned your things, that doesn't mean I don't appreciate what you do, but my life is.
over data.
No, you and me both.
For President Jackson and pull any information on any state, any road, any time.
I know.
He keeps a crash data database.
Yeah.
So we have lots of resources. We just have to come together to put it into a plan and implement it, and we are here to help with
And
that.
Eric Jackson is with the Berkeley.
Oh, we need the state crash
Here.
data database.
As you come.
Yes,
He's
You can Department of Engineering, a wonderful resource. We see him on the news a lot. We have all these fatalities all over the state.
perfect.
Wonderful.
Good night. Thank you.
Bye.
Good night.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
You guys.
Thank you.
That's it.
Thank you, everybody.
Happy night, guys.
Jackson.
Yeah.
So they just review it and then they decide.
There's information.
We have to do the appointment, right?
Number 6.
Okay, we want to
Appointments.
appoint Camden Susie as the library board for a regular member.
Mr. Chairman, I make the motion, we accept Camden Susie as a regular library board member.
I'll second.
Is there any discussion here? She has her interest form attached. And it's kind of long to read, so. there's-
Grateful to have her.
Yeah, we're.
I've met
Thank
Tammy,
you.
I don't know if anybody else has met her, but she's young and really wants to get involved in town and has some little ones, so.
Perfect.
Very good. Yeah, I did read that. She sounded, so, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion passed 7-0. And then we'd like to, go ahead. Yes.
I'd like to move the reappointment of, Matt Wright and is it Ellen Barnes for the, Ethics Commission.
Second,
Is there any discussion? All in favor? Aye, 7 yes, 0 no, motion passed. Our Ethics Commission is full again.
no.
I'm sorry, who seconded that one?
Pam Sawyer,
It's missing
thank
one.
you.
we're
Position.
a 5-member board now, and it's a 6-member board. We're missing one step
Oh, okay, I thought it seemed
at
sick
the
now.
passing of our distinguished chairman, Ruthie Johnson.
Okay. So we're looking for.
On the third.
It's an unaffiliated slot.
Okay. We're looking for an unaffiliated slot to fill the Ethics Commission. Okay, next is the correspondence. So first we have Kathy from the library.
Claire.
Claire, sorry. Oh, you said hi,
You do have
Kathy.
your
in the letter. That'll teach you.
I have, I was communicating with Kathy, just
Yeah.
asking her what the protocol was, so she said, send a letter to me, I'll get it to the right people. So,
Yeah.
Here you are. I did also include a packet, a flyer.
Yeah.
Just explaining some of the fine-free, libraries that we want to join. There's 130 of them in Connecticut right now.
Sarah, can you share your background?
Pardon me? Oh,
We can brag about it.
I was the high school librarian at Bolton High School, retired about 10 years ago.
Yay.
And I've been serving on the library board for Bentley for 5 or 6 years. And Kelly Goldsnyder is one of the board members as well. And I think Liz Thornton, director, and Rebecca Holloman, the chair of the board, are somewhere on there. Oh, there you are.
You're waving away there.
So I don't know if you want me to go through, I don't have a fancy PowerPoint, but pretty much everything is laid out right there. There's been a movement across the whole country to have libraries go fine-free as a way to just make libraries more accessible to the community. There's been all kinds of studies. They've shown that small fines don't have an impact on returns. And it has a positive impact not only for the citizens of Bolton, but also the staff of the library. Sometimes they say it's embarrassing if someone comes in and they owe 25 cents and they don't have the cash and they're restricted from taking out materials at that time. So they say that happens quite a bit.
Are the late fees generated from a computer program or are they generated?
They're generated through bibliomation.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we would have to go through the process of, just.
Manually saying they paid it or something? If somebody,
No, I think bibliomation would maybe Liz could speak to this.
Just turn it on.
I would think bibliomation would kind of change our process. So a late fine doesn't show up. Sometimes libraries will still charge late fines for CDs or electronic materials, but we can
you can pick and
kind of
choose.
tailor it to our own needs.
So how do you know if there's a book that somebody takes out and they don't return it?
Yep.
Bibliomation throws up a little red flag every now and then?
Yep, they'll still notify the patron that the book is due on such and such a date.
Okay,
And then I think they'll also get a second notice.
yeah,
So they still know that they have a book that's outstanding.
yeah,
Some studies have shown that actually when libraries go fine-free, people return more items, because they don't.
they're not fear of a fine.
Yeah, one of those horrible libraries.
Will we publicly shame in lieu of fees?
No.
Good, because I get these warnings all the time.
You'll probably still get, and people would still be responsible for lost or damaged items.
Yep.
But if you look at what we've collected in late fines over the past 5 years, it's about $1,200.
Said 2,100.
Well,
I think I
Kind of 5 years of total, 21.
That's
100, yeah.
2,100. I have it right here, but anyway, hopefully that doesn't make a huge impact on Bolton's budget. But it's something we would like you guys to consider, and if you have any questions, you can email, call us, Liz Thornton, the director, anyone on the board of trustees. We're happy to answer any questions.
Okay,
Well, you came to us at the right time. We haven't projected revenue for next year yet. So.
so could be projecting
Perfect.
Well,
What should our next steps be? Should we request it to be an agenda item to be voted on, or?
Is this money in your budget for next year?
No, because
No,
Well, that's the
Yeah.
finance committee.
Those main
They
funds
never
go to
factor
the
in.
town.
It's
Yeah,
not-
when the library gave us a
Yeah,
budget,
it's
do
not the
they?
library budget.
No, because that's set,
Some
That's what
separate,
the
okay,
expenses,
yeah, that's
not
set
revenue.
by the finance committee, the revenues.
all right, that's my question, no answer,
Okay.
that's, or I got, when I need. All right, is there any other questions? So I guess,
So this is just correspondence.
Yeah, we
and-
can't
Right.
move on it.
yeah, we can't make any
Can't-
moves on it yet, so we'll have to put it
Put it
back
on
on the
another
agenda.
meeting, yeah.
So next meeting, should we request or you automatically do
Yeah,
that?
we can,
He sounds like you
Yeah.
requested it.
you've already requested it. We just have to get it on the
You just
agenda.
have to get it on the agenda.
All right, thank you.
And we will
and-
be notified once it's on the
Yeah.
agenda, so then.
Yeah.
And then do we need to prepare something further?
I don't believe you'd have to, we have, I mean,
No, it's
That's-
pretty straightforward.
That's a pretty whether agree or disagree, that's pretty comprehensive
Yeah.
report
right.
you have.
Thank
no,
you.
this
Thank
is
you.
sufficient, so thank you very much for waiting.
Oh, no problem.
Sorry, we couldn't put you in the front, but.
That's okay.
You figured out the town process faster than most.
There you go.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.
Put that on.
you.
Thank you, Liz.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me know if you have any questions.
All right,
Will do.
okay,
Thank you,
next,
Rebecca.
next is, the request for the street light from Suzanne Shippey. I think that's how you pronounce her name. She's looking for a street light on the corner of, is that Old Bolton Road?
Bolton Center and Old Bolton Road, yep.
Old Bolton and Bolton Center, okay. So it's where they changed the intersection to a 90 where it used to be a Y. And her argument is that there's lights at every intersection on Bolton Center Road except for that particular one. And there seems to be a lot of activity on that street, which includes everybody who signed the form, which is all the people on, not all, it's a lot of people on Toomey and Maple. They all use that intersection, and the people who go to the library also use that intersection. In the gazebo.
And the Montessori.
And the Montessori school. So it's a pretty highly used intersection. And it appears to be the only one that doesn't have a light on it. So I guess is there, yeah,
One intersection here.
what's that?
Do you have a map? Is it right at the Montessori school?
No, it's on the other side
The
of the
other-
green.
Across from Barger's old house?
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
That okay, gotcha, yeah.
Anya's house,
Huh?
my house, that's what it's.
Ah,
Yeah.
hi,
Formerly Burke.
got it.
And yes, it's an old.
You're right at the top.
Yeah, right at the stop sign where that turn is. I
We're,
think
we're,
they
you
wanted
know, we
to
got the
have
King's
those.
Walkway.
The barns and everything proposed. Yeah.
Okay.
And I just wanted to make sure you were notified. I left a.
Yeah, I think that's why my husband sent me here.
Wait, do you want it there or does she not? Does she want it or she doesn't want it?
I don't.
I think neither one of us, Scott was here. We don't care. It's fine. As long as it's not those like bright LED highway lights, that would be a predicament.
Well,
Because it's
that's,
really close to the.
That's what I was.
that's the concern, right? It's like-
Yeah, if they're those bright LEDs, they're
Well,
not gonna
And
go.
that's all we have is LEDs.
Yeah,
Well, I think yeah, I would start with that. I asked for a conversation with to see if they have the newer ones that
With the
did.
dampening. It's-
Yeah.
because the bright ones are really bright.
Well,
and it
yeah,
shines right.
the original ones really didn't have shields.
Yeah,
They had minimal shields and
Yeah.
they were designed to light up a
the
large
ones
circle.
you have
of the
around
district.
don't seem aggressive, like you have one in
Yeah.
the corner of the library, there's one at the, I mean, those don't seem aggressive, if that's what you're doing. But the ones on the highway, those are like,
Oh, no, that's, no, that's nothing like
I think
that.
that's why they sent me here.
No,
Oh,
no.
well, I
It's like what we have here. The original, going back, original concept for that is so someone could actually read a street sign. We're driving around. This is way before GPS. But that was the
Oh.
concept of lighting up all the intersections, so and people be driving around at night and,
You can't see.
you know, well, the signs are also smaller.
Bigger issue, it's not really that.
I mean, this is
I
not,
will now.
no, this is not horse and buggy time. This is just a few years ago.
You know that turn where you come out in front of my house?
Yeah.
That's really, I mean, that turn, people just go straight, cause you used to have arrows that led people, cause instead of making that turn in the stop sign to take a left or right, they just go straight, or they hit the, post
Wow.
that's there. Quite consistent.
And we're still owed a crosswalk there, right?
There's a crosswalk.
It is there.
Yeah. you
It's painted.
painted it.
They painted it?
Yeah,
Yeah.
On the path?
yeah.
Yeah.
That means it's been a minute since I walked that. I used to walk it. It's been cold. Don't touch it.
No,
I walked it the other day. No, it's there.
Oh, good.
So
And
anyways.
I'm
that
sorry,
was
can I get her name in the audience?
Tanya?
Tanya,
Tanya?
Tanya?
Tomaroga?
Spell it.
Tomaroga, a lot of O's.
What number?
8 Old Bolton Road.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
all right, is there any other discussion on the light? No, seeing none, we're gonna move on.
Is that
You're-
going,
You're free.
Go.
will that be on an
we,
agenda?
I think it probably will be, we need to get information from
Yeah,
Eversource.
Tomorrow.
Yeah,
We need to know what the cost of installing the light's gonna be and what the monthly
Yeah.
fees are gonna be.
So we know.
Okay.
That way you guys can make an informed decision.
Yep.
okay, we gotta consider an act on approving the 2026 date of March
Thank
8th,
you.
2026 for annual.
Chairman, I make the motion that we approve the 2026 date of March 8th for the annual Bolton Road Race.
Tim Sadler seconds.
Is there any discussion? All right, all in favor? Aye, that's 7-0 in favor for March 8th, 2026 annual Bolton Road Race. The approval of minutes. We have
Sending out.
March 4th.
Yep, right. Okay, yeah.
Mr. Chairman, I would make a motion that we approve the minutes for March 4th, 2025 for the Board of Selectmen meeting.
Is there a second?
Sadler seconds.
Is there any discussion? Gwen?
Yes, first page, last paragraph, about halfway down. It says G. Marion asked if any ADA grants have been applied for. G. Marion noted with good policy, to reach out to the senior center about the musical equipment. I don't think I said that.
Yeah, I was wondering what that.
I don't think that Pam, I don't know, maybe were those comments that you made? Cause I'm almost positive I didn't make those two comments. Do you see where I am, Pam?
No.
Okay, but, bottom of the page, last paragraph, first page,
Oh,
under PTA BCS playground.
oh, okay, yeah.
It's
Okay.
about halfway down.
I'll accept it as mine.
Okay, thanks. And, that's just one of the weaknesses of having Zoom meetings. I think our clerk does a great job. I think it's, very difficult for her to know,
Absolutely.
exactly who says what.
Yeah.
And then on, page 3 of the same set of minutes, last paragraph, first sentence, John Toomey lives at 45 Hebron Road. So it should be HEBRON.
Yep.
And then same set of minutes on page 5. Under the town administrator's report, G. Marion asked if there was any feedback on the Groundhog Road race or any discussion on changing the month of the event. I don't think I said that either.
That was me.
I think that's
Okay.
Pam as well.
Okay. Yep. Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, the changes, I'll accept the amended.
Oh, wait, you got Amanda has her hand up?
Yep.
Not a comment about the minutes per se, but I was hoping that we could post the Novus presentation with the materials from the meeting on the website, because it's not up there.
I don't know that. Can you do that?
Yeah. Thanks. I would like to reserve the ability to redact anything that's sensitive. And I know we had it publicly.
Yeah, I was like, it's public, so it can't be sensitive. I mean, ask them if there's anything that's proprietary, I guess, or something, but
But it was
it was a
all
public.
made in public, in a public
Yeah.
forum.
And the PTA one as well, if we can get that posted. So people can,
Did we get that one?
I don't have that one. But I'm sure Ashley would share it.
yeah. I'm sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's 7 yes. And then March 11th,
I make a motion that we approve the minutes for the special meeting AP for Tuesday, March 11th, 2025.
is there a second?
Sadler seconds.
Is there any discussion? Minutes,
On page 5, where we were making the motions, it said just approve the town side in my 2 motions, and I think we should clarify that it's town side of the capital budget. So people know what we're referencing to.
agreed.
I accept that change.
Is there any other? Yes,
Minor change, my name is spelled wrong in the attendee list. And that, again, these were not taken by the clerk who's taking our minutes tonight. These were done by Kathy.
right.
So, I mean, and I'm just saying, I just want
Yeah.
to point out to Casey that that wasn't an error that she made.
Any other comments? All in favor? Aye,
Aye.
7,
I'll abstain, 7 yes.
6
Mather Clark abstained.
and 1 abstain. And March 25th,
I'll move the adoption of these with a correction. The correction being, page 4, under 14. Note. There's a motion that, dealt with the administrator's, salary increase. There was also a motion to have the administrative officers 2 weeks unused vacation pay to be carried over to the following year. And I didn't make a notice to who made it, but I will assume that I made it. Or, I don't, did you make
It
it?
I
wasn't
think
me.
it was Amanda.
It wasn't me,
Okay,
because I remember I was planning to and somebody else beat me to it, so
okay, so that,
it wasn't me.
Ken was pretty fast.
It might have been-
It might have
all
been
right,
Ken.
yeah.
No, you don't.
And I think it was me, you might have seconded it.
Carry over of the 2 weeks. It might have been you and second.
I did not.
No, okay.
No?
We
I
can
know- I
listen to
made
the
it.
minutes and figure it out, but that's a pretty important thing, and I think we should revise the minutes to reflect.
Right. And,
Anyway.
I don't
Is
remember
there
that.
any other discussion? Gwen?
Maybe I did.
Yes, page 3, under number 8, regarding the active transportation micro grants, the second full paragraph. I was quoted as saying, I requested that S. Crane consider e-bikes with smaller motors so that they would be allowed on the trails. And I can understand why our clerk interpreted what I said to be that, but that's really not what I meant. I had said that the size of the motors, there's 3, I think, different horsepowers, and I don't think that the town should buy the highest horsepower. But I don't like the idea of these e-bikes being used on trails, even if they're at the lower horsepower. So I don't support the use of them on trails. So I would just like, I think to clear it up is we could just put a period after the end of smaller motors. So it would just read, G. Marion requested that S. Crane consider e-bikes with smaller motors, period. And then there's no reference to
I'll accept that
allowance
change.
entry. Okay, thank you. And page 4, under item 13, the board reached consensus to bring the first selectman salary of 35,000 to the public. I don't remember if we actually agreed on that
No,
figure.
what we,
Right.
no, we said we would
Just
bring the
read it
range.
To the public.
Yeah, the range
The
to the
range.
public. So, maybe that should read,
And we have to
Bring
reapproach,
the salary range.
we have to reread or re-listen to the minutes because some of this was executive session, so we don't want to get it
Yeah,
wrong.
that's what I was gonna say. I don't have those to listen to correct. So Jim, if you could make those,
Oh, they should be
update
on.
those corrections.
Yeah, we'll look at it.
Those were the ones you provided to me. Okay, thank you.
We specifically use the range,
Mhm.
you know, all about
The
that.
numbers,
I don't.
Any
I
other-
don't think we did, no.
because I remember thinking, were we going to bring up numbers and we didn't
Yeah,
when we came out of executive session?
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. There's, 6 yes, 1 abstain, Pam Sawyer. And we're gonna move on to reports and updates. Consider an act on approving budget transfers. Are there any? Oop.
You have another one.
I'd like to make the approval transfer of $5,000 for repair and maintenance from the services to the category of repair and maintenance supplies for highway.
I'll second that.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. That's 7. Yes,
There's one for conservation, but it's under the,
under the limit. Okay. And now we move on to ongoing business number 10. Update on Colonial Road.
So what we have been in, several conversations with Eversource, and we actually had, Mr. Butcher-Movich, who is our tree warden, reach out to the tree warden from Colonial Road. Because we felt like we weren't getting enough information from our Eversource liaison. And indeed, Mr. Butcher-Movich was able to get more clear information from Julian, who is the, tree warden for Eversource. And they've done everything they could do with the equipment that they had available at the time. There is a specialized piece of equipment that they need to get in there to do more. That equipment, when John spoke with him last week, was broken. And it is actively being repaired. And there is one project that is in front of theirs. But as soon as they get their hands on that piece of equipment, they will be back to Colonial Road to finish what they've started.
For your motion. Very good. And B, we're gonna move on to the Stanford Wrecking change order request. So do you wanna take this one, Jim?
Sure. So, you know, we talked about this a bit at the last meeting. And since then, I've had conversations with Stanford Wrecking. I've had conversations with our representatives from Ty and Bond. And I've had a conversation late this afternoon with Attorney Barger. So I think one of the things that we have to understand here is that our consultant, Ty and Bond, has requested that Stanford Wrecking dispose of these materials in a different manner in order to protect the town of Bolton for liability reasons, because we are the generators of this hazardous waste. And there is some ambiguity in the way that the laws in the state of New York are being interpreted. And so, and there is, in my conversation with Attorney Barger, in the contract, there is a square footage price indeed for sandblasting and removing PCB laden paint from the concrete. So in my conversations with Stanford Wrecking, I told them that the Board of Selectmen was having a difficult time accepting this roughly $75,000 change
Jim, I
order.
apologize to interrupt, but it has to do with what you just said.
Sure.
You said that in the contract, there's a square footage price for the sandblasting.
There is.
And is that in line with how this was calculated?
I haven't had the
The
opportunity to figure that out.
Sorry to
honestly.
interrupt you.
That's quite all right. But there is a square footage price in the contract that Rich Barger pointed out and Harley Langford from Ty and Bond also pointed out. So essentially what's happened here is our consultant is asking for a change in the way that Stanford Wrecking was going to dispose of this material. And I explained to Stanford Wrecking that, you know, we have a tight budget, you know, we don't have an unending budget for this project. And they came back and, you know, initially told them I thought it would be more appropriate if they accepted most of the burden for this change order. And they came back with an offer of us accepting $37,500 worth of the change order, and they would absorb the rest. I want to be in full disclosure, the board needs to also know that because of this change, there's additional monitoring costs and additional costs for tie and bond. I have a verbal quote for them of about $25,000 for that additional monitoring and testing. Because the project is gonna take approximately 30 days longer than we had originally thought with this change of work.
Yes.
So all right, so what was the original way they were going to dispose that Ty and Bond wanted them to change?
They were gonna take the concrete to a facility in New York.
Right, but they were told they couldn't, so that was not Ty and Bond asking them to change something, that was the state of New York saying no.
So the company in New York would still take the waste.
Oh,
It is the state of New York's interpretation of their regulations that nobody in New York should take the waste.
but then doesn't the liability fall on the company in New York that accepts the waste?
But that's an issue between Sanford Wrecking and that company.
Right.
Right, so where do we come into the picture? I've like read this stuff a couple times and was really struggling to figure this out.
We're trying to keep the project moving. And if we end up in litigation over this issue, it's gonna cost us way more than 37.5 plus the 25. And the project is just gonna sit there the way it is currently for months on end.
And the additional 25,000 of it's air monitoring, correct?
So it's air monitoring, people boots on the ground and testing the concrete.
Yep.
So
And
they
that's
actually,
taking place regardless. It's just now that because the duration will be longer, it's more time of doing that.
but there's also additional testing costs. So they did actually on Monday last week, they did actually do a test patch. And we got the test results on Friday. The test results were absolutely clean. There were 0 parts per million of PCBs found on the concrete, which means that they could follow through with their plan to dispose of the concrete in Connecticut as non-hazardous
That's great.
waste.
Yeah.
And it will be recycled and probably turned into processed gravel or something of that nature.
And that saves us a lot on trucking.
So they're crediting us the
Yeah.
trucking fees in the proposal they gave us for the change order. They're crediting us about $100,000 in trucking fees.
The trucking that they won't have to do it. Could there be a justification for? Oh, you're required to do the monitoring the whole time, like if you do a test on us. If the concrete is homogeneous and you do one test, wouldn't you be able to infer that
No,
the rest of it would be the same?
because it really depends on how well you sandblasted that section of concrete.
So I also assume that where's this sandblasting stuff going? And they have.
Well, they have
test
to,
it.
they have to dispose of the sandblasting slag and the PCB that's hazardous waste.
So is it collected or does it hit the ground and then they have? to test?
I'm not sure how
Yeah,
they
I'm
collect
not-
it, but
Right.
that's part of the reason that we have the environmental team monitoring
Plastic down.
that work.
Right.
But the extra 25,000 of monitoring wouldn't have occurred had we not been doing the sandblasting.
That's correct.
Right.
They would take
So
the concrete.
it's kind of it's still part of this change. It's a direct result of the change. Right.
And it covers our liability as a town because we are the employer.
Right, but it's a cost that we wouldn't otherwise, had this not happened, that cost wouldn't have occurred.
But this is our material.
We're the generators of the waste, and every load of hazardous waste that comes off of that site, I have to sign for.
So,
Why? I mean, I know we signed a contract with Ty and Bond to do monitoring. Why did we do that? Like, did we not trust Stanford Wrecking to do the job properly? I'm just trying to understand the reasoning behind why we've continued to pay Ty and Bond to serve in this role.
So they're providing direction and guidance for us as their customer. And they're also providing monitoring 100% of the time that activity is going on to make sure hazardous materials are not leaving the site.
Is there an
Which is-
environmental
They're an
specialist?
environmental specialist, and
It's
this,
doing the whole time anyway.
which, and this is
Right.
something that was of concern to our residents.
Okay,
Which is why we went down that road.
But now it's leading to an additional $25,000 of that
That's correct.
because this process is going to take longer.
That's correct.
why can't Stanford Wrecking test their own slabs?
We're talking
It was-
air.
Not that.
They would always hire, they would have subcontracted a firm.
They don't have that.
They don't have that
Ability.
capability.
It's an environmental.
And
Environmental.
let's put this in perspective. Perspective is, we're the generator of that material. And
We don't-
you want someone to hire who, when they sign off, you've got this document that it basically indemnifies you from any issues. And that's worth a hell of a lot more than $25,000. I mean, that's, in dealing with this material, that's a significant issue. I know this is a cost overrun, and maybe somebody else should pick this up or not, but I'm at a point now where I want to get the project done. And as much as you have to swallow a $40,000 of this thing, I'm in favor of doing it.
I'm gonna add to that then, if I may, Mr. Chairman.
Yes.
I believe in doing it as safely as possible. And we had no control over what New York decides that they're going to value their regulations and how they're going to interpret them. The company interpreted one way and the state interprets it a separate way. That's a buzzsaw you run into with government. And in this case, because it is contaminants, I think we need to err on the side of caution. I don't like spending the money, but I think it behooves us to protect our citizens and it behooves us to move the project forward.
I agree, go.
So Stanford Wrecking has suggested a compromise of paying 37,500, but with an additional 25,000 monitoring. So then we're up to
62.5.
we're up to 62.5 and they had originally asked for 74.
And the 25,000 is not paid to them, right?
It's paid to Ty and Bond.
Right. We have a separate contract with Ty and Bond.
Right.
Right,
I
which
see.
we would have to amend.
And they didn't offer the same 50% discount that Stanford Wrecking did.
Yeah, think about one other thing in this process. If, based on the original proposal, we still would have had to, because that means we would have been sandblasting, we still would have had Time and Bond extend their time, and when that, we would have to pick that cost up.
I'm not
Yeah, me
following you.
neither.
I thought this
No,
was
because it would have stayed on the bricks and been hauled to New York.
Right.
No, what I'm saying is, their original proposal, not the original, the one they gave us last week, for the 75,000.
Oh, right, yeah.
Yeah. What wasn't included in that.
Right.
Was any additional costs that we would incur for our people, Hein and Baum, because of the sandblasting.
Oh, right.
That time's gonna be extended. And
Right.
so what they're basically saying, their cost, they reduced it in half. But our cost is gonna be the same. It's gonna be increased either way.
Amanda?
And can you explain, when you said the sandblasting was originally in their contract, what was the sandblasting that was originally in their contract for?
If sandblasting was required for PCB laden paint, which is what this issue is, it was at an additional cost of $35 per square foot.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
And what did Attorney Varger say about?
He said, you know, he said if we really wanted to argue this, there's probably enough information in the contract, we could argue it, but he feels that this is a fair compromise and that he would not recommend, trying to argue it. It would cost us more in time and litigation expenses than we would gain.
That's valid. That often happens.
Right.
So that, and as far as the monitoring goes, we need to keep ourselves covered for rants from neighbors that just think that airborne stuff is airborne, and we know it's not.
Well,
It's
not-
safe.
One thing, I mean, it's a legitimate concern, and that's, you know, that's why we,
Next to a playground.
And there's a school there.
and there's a school, right? And that, it's a legitimate concern, and that's why we entered into the contract with time bond to begin with.
And we want to get that playground reopened. Is it open yet?
It's open.
So the school has not been using it during active demolition.
Oh,
But I did ask the question of Stanford Wrecking today. It was never closed.
no.
It was never
I walk it
closed.
like every
But
day.
the school has been using the parking area
Oh.
adjacent rather than the playground. So I have reached out to Principal Giard and let him know that I'm inquiring if it's okay for them to use the playground, you know, during this new remediation process when active demolition is not gonna be taking place.
And or if it wasn't, maybe we should have put up a sign to the public to tell them not to use it either. 'Cause there's definitely been kids in public
So,
using that.
so there's, yeah, I mean, tie and bonds, when we asked them, they said there's no reason anybody
Okay.
can't use the playground. It was the school's decision to
Got it.
not use it.
Right. So we need a motion.
I move to accept the proposal of,
37,500.
62.5, 37.5 for
no, 37.5, the rest of it,
Stanford.
yeah.
And 25.
5 to Stanford Wrecking.
Correct.
25 to Tie and Bond.
That's
But the
correct.
25 is an estimate,
And the
right?
25 is an estimate.
I don't
Yeah.
have it in writing, but they thought that was a solid number.
I don't think we should act on that.
Yeah, I'm gonna make it
Yeah.
separately because they're not tied, yeah. so-
And we can do an up to, type motion.
Well, I'm just going,
Not to exceed.
So let's start this again. Go ahead, Bob.
I'm
Sorry,
No, that's okay. I'm going back to the original motion was, to approve the
Stanford Rec.
staffing record. What was the amount again?
37.5.
37.5.
Second, Ken Sawyer.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That's 7 yes. Do we want to wait until our next meeting to?
I mean,
Yeah, I think we should wait until we have,
we don't have to.
we should wait until we
increase that
have an
because
invoice.
We still have enough funds to keep paying them, so if we need more
No, I
money,
think we should wait until Ty and Bond tells us how much
how much it is.
how much it
Yeah.
cost to monitor.
Yeah,
Like not,
But
they
that's
said,
not- But that's not an invoice. That's.
or whatever. I mean,
An estimate.
It's a, it's a contract.
I want a hard number. I don't want them to just say, we think it's gonna be 25,000 and us to say, yeah, let's pay them
And they
25,000.
should know that we feel that, at least I do, and I think more of the board, that it's not that we don't want to pay for it, we just would give us a.
Well, we want a number.
Yeah, no, I've asked for it in
Yeah.
writing and they just haven't had an
We
opportunity.
certainly
that's all.
appreciate them being upfront with it, though. It's better to know now 25 rather than.
Yeah.
Well, exactly, and it doesn't mean that the board, they should know that. We're questioning it, but we would like that invoice so we can actually vote on it and we'll go from there.
We have a meeting next Tuesday, so
Yeah.
they come up with
I'm sure
something.
they need to figure out.
Yeah,
how many
by then
actual
they
days
should
it's
be
gonna
able-
take.
Well, so how do we pay Ty and Bond? Do we wait until they do the work and then we pay them? Or do we don't pay them in
They
advance?
They
They
invoice.
invoice.
Okay, so why can't we wait for an invoice then and then pay
Because
it?
we need to approve an addendum to their contract.
Change order.
Are they gonna do the work before it's even a part of their contract? They don't wanna do the work without.
Well,
So there's I think there's two ways to approach it. There would be a time and materials, and then there would be a contract, and we have a contract, so we would have to amend the contract prior to the work being completed. Is that accurate?
That's normally how these things are done.
Unless we had a time and materials, and then it would just be an open-ended to see how many
and
hours
does
it
time and
is.
materials mean that
I would
they,
prefer a contract.
they time and materials is billed, they do some work and then
That's
they
right.
bill us, they do some work and they bill us.
Yes, you could
So,
do not to exceed, but.
So we have- we have-
Kind of splitting hairs at
Right.
that point.
So we have a
Better just to have-
we have a contract with them
It's like
now for
200
a certain
hours.
amount of money.
Okay.
And when they complete a portion of the work, they send us an invoice.
Mhm.
But there's an overarching contract that governs the overall
Pretty
value.
high billable hours, so.
Right, but they haven't exceeded their contract yet, so can't we wait until they exceed their contract and then extend it? For the remainder of the project, or they just don't finish the project?
This is additional scope.
Well, no, not really, it's just additional hours.
Well, it's extending the time.
Most contractors want their change orders approved before they.
Right, but we're not at the point where we need a change order yet, because they haven't exceeded their current contract limits.
Could we vote to approve an amendment to the contract that takes into consideration additional air monitoring that is going to be required? And so then that contract is amended and then we wait until we get an invoice for the actual time spent monitoring.
Wouldn't you rather know what the ultimate value is gonna be?
Yeah, they should,
How do you
if
know
they
it
can give us a price, that'd be a good way to do it. Up to.
I can have an addendum to the contract by next week.
Right.
They just didn't have an opportunity to get it done this week.
That sounds like.
So if they give us an estimate and the work goes over that estimate, they're locked in at that estimate that they
Correct.
approve. All right.
That's why we would do an addendum to the contract.
Correct.
So we'll pick that up next meeting, right? Does that work? The 8th? It's next week.
Yeah.
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 Some meeting.
That gives them a week to come up with a number. Okay, that sounds B. Now, consider an act on contract dates for. Consider an act on contract dates for Jim Rupert. So we didn't do that last time. I don't know what
It
happened.
doesn't end this year, then next. And it was how long of a contract?
Current date is,
It was initially a 2-year contract that generally gets extended by a year.
so we want to extend it by 1 year.
That is your decision. I will tell you that the norm in the business is a 3-year contract. It is not normally a 2-year contract. I believe both town administrators before me had 3-year contracts.
No,
The reopener after two.
What's that?
With an opener
With
after
a
two.
reopener.
Okay,
But it is completely up to the board. That's at your discretion.
And
so we just want to make sure we get past the next election.
So it was signed 7/1/2024. Is that inaccurate? If it expired 6/30/26?
There was an extension.
So it's already been turned into a 3-year, right?
Correct.
So it was signed 7/1/23 through 6/30/26.
29.
I believe that's correct.
29?
Would we go out to 29?
Oh,
for
that's
3
what
years?
you're, oh,
No.
No, I think if you were gonna try to make it 3 years, you would do potentially a 2-year extension.
essentially, because you're going back,
Okay, right.
26 to 28,
you're effectively going back, so it would end in 28,
say
So-
25.
26, 27.
I'm not following
Yeah.
this. So I thought the conversation was to extend it to make it a 3-year contract.
But it's already.
Right, and
And-
going back to the
Original.
original contract, which ended in 24, correct?
I think that's accurate.
That's correct. So if you add that 3 to 24, going to bring it 27,
27.
right?
Okay, so it's like
Okay.
the contract was 7/1/24 through 6/30/26. That's the way it sits now. And we're saying, should we extend it to 6/30/27?
And that would be a typical 3-year contract. Yeah,
Okay,
and I'll make that motion.
was that a motion?
Yes.
Okay.
I'll second.
Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye, that's 7, yes. Congratulations. You're now a recipient of a 3-year contract.
I get to hang out with you guys a little bit longer.
Took 3 years to put it together, but.
Oh, but we didn't.
Number 11, new business, consider an act on fire department raises. We have several fire department Nope, we got two. Hi, Matt and Bruce.
So apparently somehow or another, when we acted on wage increases last year, we forgot a couple with this chart that was provided to the board that you acted on. And the chief did provide, the first selectman and I with documentation to this effect, and we concur with his conclusion that according to the conversation that we had during the budget and what we agreed to was a 3% increase for the deputy chief and the assistant chief. And then there was supposed to be an inclusion for the engineer position that is not included in this documentation, and that information is on the following page.
Jim, could I interject here at all?
That's up to the first selectman, it's
Yeah.
a meeting.
Go
Thank
ahead,
you.
Bruce.
Yeah, I brought this subject up a while ago, where the minutes that were taken did not duplicate what was discussed in the meeting. Jim and the first selectman, I don't know if you ladies have it, or the other gentlemen, have the second by second transcript that I did for that meeting, where Mrs. Marion approved the $30,000 proficiency fund, not $29,002, which our budget reflects. And the group also approved basically a bottom line figure of $82,504, which is reflected in the budget. There's no change on that. However, the line items for lieutenant and the payroll positions for secretary or for treasurer, deputy chief and assistant chief were not reflected properly in a finance department. Lisa Ganier, very sharp woman in that department, contacted me and said, Bruce, that doesn't reflect what's written. I went through second by second on your minutes, and I've got those. If you like copies, I think Jim and Rodney can provide them. But dollars and cents have not changed. It's just terminology that the position of the engineers, the lieutenant, the engineers, the deputy, and the assistant chief all come in with that 3% range, as I've presented back to Jim, so we can get the folks on payroll. This was going to happen back in December, and it was put off because of the lack of proper transcripts by the secretary at that point. All you folks did your job. You did it very well. So noted, even the engineers were noted by Amanda Gordon, 34 minutes and 0 seconds into the minutes, audio minutes. You can all listen to them. So I'm just looking for a terminology and for the engineers in the 3% added in, which dollars and cents you have covered already. The only thing that hasn't been covered is proficiency fund for $800, which you approved and did not get carried over into finance. Hope that's clear.
Chief, so you're saying that's all been approved? It's just not in transcript?
Yeah, correct. And it in transcript properly. In other words, Jim, you've got that one sheet with a highlighted down the bottom does not reflect the 3%. I don't know if you passed that on to the rest of the board.
We all have it.
They all have it, yep.
Very bottom of that does not include engineers position, which were actually approved on 2/21 at 3,400 minutes or 34 minutes into your audio transcript on February 21st, 2024. So I'm just looking for a terminology change, nothing in money for the payroll, except for, again, looking for $800 more in proficiency at the end of the year, which the town administrator and I have had continued conversation about.
Okay. Is there any questions?
Gwen's
Oh,
got a
yeah.
question. I can see it. Gwen's got a question.
Yeah, so one, I would like time to go look at the transcripts, and or go listen to the meeting before we make a decision about this. Two, what is this document, Jim, that has the highlighting? It comes from the finance department, but what, it says non-union pay increases.
This is something that you acted on last year.
Mm-hmm. Correct.
Okay.
When it got
No.
transferred over on, I believe, when was that budget meeting, Jim, in July, June or July? They got approved for
I
finance?
think it was the beginning of July, the first meeting in July.
So
Yep.
we just approved it with the wrong numbers because finance and
Correct.
the new numbers in it.
You are
Because
right.
they put the numbers in it that were in the minutes. And the
Okay,
minutes were incorrect.
okay, now it's starting to make a little bit more sense. Okay.
No, you folks did exactly right. The secretary did not transcribe it at all properly. And I see during your initial meeting earlier, when you're going over 3 different minutes to approve, I really liked you looking at the minutes and changing what was wrong. So we don't have this problem with other groups in the future.
Well, and I mean, regardless, it's not always easy to remember that level of detail.
Right.
One or two
Yeah.
minutes later
I
without
did.
going through and looking at the transcript. So that's why I know you had to go look at the transcript. I mean, it makes sense to me. I just would like to confirm with what we said since Gwen and my name have been invoked. I just want to make sure it's an accurate representation of what I said. I mean, I don't think you'd say it if it wasn't there because that would be silly, but I just want to make sure I'm recalling correctly as well.
And this doesn't change the bottom line of what we approved for the finance,
So
for the fire commission budget, except for the
Except for the
$800.
$800, right? I remember that discussion. I think it was Bob Mora that said, I don't like numbers like that. It should just be 30,000.
Right.
And if somehow or another, that also did not get reflected appropriately in the minutes. So we would have to find $800 in another budget to transfer into that budget.
Yep, Gwen, exactly on that, at 24 minutes and 20 seconds in the conversation, Bob Morris said that 29,200 is a weird number and said to keep it with the fire department to let them run it. In other words, not let the finance department oversee this operation. Mora, 2615, Mora recommended to make it $30,000 at 2,700. Marion agreed to make the proficiency fund $30,000. Gwen, or excuse me, Amanda, I welcome you to go back and look at the minutes. It took me about an hour and a half to get this all done. So just to give you an idea, and Jim and Rodney have this already, so save you some time.
Yeah, if you can forward the document to us.
Which document?
He said he transcribed.
He
it, so-
did. We didn't put all of that in here for you.
I got it right here for you.
You know, there's AI that can do that for you, right, Bruce?
I mean, I'm sorry, say it again. Say it
I
again.
said there's AI that can do that for
We
you.
don't use.
Oh,
open
no,
source
no AI here. This is all straight fact, no AI here.
So it sounds like this is tabled till the
Because
8th.
we're meeting next week
We're meeting next
and we
week.
don't need
Yeah.
it.
So
or-
we can get that corrected next week.
Yeah.
Thank you for the information and hard work.
So somebody's gonna table this?
I'll make a motion that we table this item until the next appropriate meeting.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Aye,
Aye.
aye, 7. Approved. Thank you. All right, thank you. The next meeting's Tuesday, 8th. Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you. And now we consider an act on approving second quarter payments
Oh,
to Takamuchi for $10,016.67 without an invoice.
I'll make a motion to put it on the table.
Oh, yeah, I'll second it. Sorry.
Is there any discussion?
Yeah, why
Yeah.
don't we have an invoice?
So we have been struggling with Takeuchi since the beginning of our contract to get a correct bill. They are continually putting tax on our bill. They're continually telling us that they will re-invoice us correctly. And they're giving us late fees on a bill that's still wrong. We have, with the bills that we've gotten, we have sent a payment, or we're working on a payment, which I think you'll see in next week's AP if we haven't done it already, for the first quarter of the appropriation. We would like to have the check in hand so that as soon as we get this squared away, we can send the check out. It's a known number. It's not a fictitious number. It's based on a monthly fee. And we just, the problem is, again, if we get this straightened out, which we're still struggling with, we are taking names, we are taking phone numbers, we're writing dates, we're writing times. We have created a log of all the conversations we are having with Takeuchi, and they are struggling to get this correct. The last conversation we had was, well, we lost it, send it over again, talking about our tax exempt certificate. We sent it over again, we called to follow up 3 days later, did you get it? We're still waiting for a corrected invoice. No, we don't have it. Well, it turns out it was in her spam. She just didn't find it. So we are just really struggling. We're trying to get this contract done. We're trying to get it done correctly. But I just don't want to be in a position where we're taking so long to get them paid that we're, you know, that we legitimately have late fees. So we're asking that the check could be cut, so that as soon as we get this corrected, we can make the payment, and we're trying to make it so that we get quarterly payments rather than monthly payments. It's just a lot easier for everybody.
Jim, does this requested amount include the fake late fees?
No,
Thank you.
Jim, do you want this then, do you want an amended motion then that says, to be prepared to pay upon invoice?
that is completely up to you.
Then I will make that make a change to my motion to say that, I make a motion to approve the amended motion, approving the second quarter payments upon receipt of the invoice.
I'll second.
Bob has to second it because he made the original second.
So does that,
Yeah, I raised my hand, my mouth didn't move.
Okay, Bob seconded.
is that sufficient?
That should do it.
Yes.
Any other discussion?
And so just for clarity, you know, we discussed this with the finance department, and they said the only way that we can do this without an invoice is if the board of selectmen approved it. And that really what that does is it puts the check in our hands so that as soon as we get a correct invoice, we can put it in the mail. So we don't have to wait for an AP process.
Or you can go over there and say, hey, I got this check. Can you give me an invoice for it?
Well, that's in reality is what's gonna happen. It shouldn't be this hard to pay somebody.
I'm not that-
Cast aspersions because we've all had trouble sometimes.
Okay, all in favor? Aye, aye, seven yes,
Thank you.
approved. Consider an act on a proclamation for retired Air Force Colonel Anthony J. Sobel II, who is being honored by the Honor Flight Organization for his life dedication in the U.S. Air Force as a fighter pilot.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
I was approached by the family, he grew up in Bolton and as his siblings, his mother is a renowned artist, his father was a renowned military man as well. And he has been selected, though he lives out in the Southwest, as a Bolton born and raised. The family reached out because they have on this honor flight to take selected veterans who apply and get selected to Washington, D.C. to do a tour of the monuments, the war monuments. And he has been selected, and the family reached out because on the flight home, they present them with packets of letters, specially crafted letters. So I wrote one as a military family to another military family personally, and the family has asked, and I thought it was a great idea that we do a proclamation for the Vietnam very honorably, multiple tours, and I would ask that we all sign it tonight because I'll be seeing the family tomorrow.
Is there?
Also moved. I mean,
Absolutely.
I'll second.
that's a great, those flights are amazing, folks, and generally for the older vets to go there. And they're each accompanied by a person because many of them have difficulty getting in on.
And it's privately funded.
And it's privately funded, and all the people that work on it, they're all volunteers, and I was gonna do it, except I can't do it anymore. They're gonna put me on one of the old guys as they bring it out there.
Oh, you wanted to be one of them.
I want to be one of the helpers.
I thought you wanted to be one of the old guys.
No, I already did. I did my tour out there a couple of times.
Is there any other comments? I'd like to thank him for his service and wish him the best on his journey there.
I will share that tomorrow.
And, all in favor? Aye, aye. So we're just gonna pass this around and sign
Is
it.
that pen working?
Probably should use,
this.
use one pen.
I don't know. Is it blue? Yes, it's blue.
We'll move on to,
Same time?
yes, I'll pass it around with the thing. So if we can move on to the town administrator report while we're doing this, we can keep things moving forward.
I assume everybody's had a chance to look at the report. Is there any questions? Do you want me to go through it in any detail on any particular item?
In detail. huh?
One of the things I'll point out is I think we're getting a reputation as a great site for MPA interns. We have 16 applicants for next year.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
Which is just,
If we can get them as good as we've got.
we've done really well, and I'm really especially pleased with Tim's performance this year. And I've said as much to his advisor. He's done some amazing things for us.
Is there any response to the position?
To get an army of grant writers? Just
An
apply
army
for
of grant
1,000
writers.
grants.
Typically, that's not what we get with college students, but, so we do have one internal applicant for the crewman position. That posting expired yesterday. So we're gonna be looking to put a panel together for an interview and to determine whether or not that individual meets the town's qualifications for that role. And, if they do, then we'll be in a position to post for the vacant position. That would be in the, either way, once
Right,
that process is done, we'll be in a position to post for the vacant position that still exists in the highway department.
On the item 3 about the public meeting regarding the Heritage Farm Trail, on track for mid-April, we're already April 1st, so
Those are words that came direct from the town engineer.
okay,
Tomorrow is Wednesday. He gets a phone call from me every Wednesday.
okay.
So if you want to talk after my conversation with him, we can certainly do that.
Oh, no, I'm just thinking in terms of scheduling the public meeting.
Yeah.
It seems like, 2 weeks out is
Yeah, I need
usually when you
to,
start.
my hope is that tomorrow I can get a specific date from him so that we can talk about and set a date.
Do you think you could get a couple of dates and circulate them? Because I,
Well, really, I want to know the date that he's gonna be ready for us.
oh, okay, the soonest he'll be
Yeah,
ready.
as soon as he'll be ready.
Okay,
for us.
because it would be good if as many of the selectmen as possible could attend.
Agree.
Okay.
Absolutely.
Do you have any details or like how did the meeting go with the superintendent on payroll services?
So we did have the meeting, first selectman Fournier was there with me. Lisa Gonzor, who was our payroll individual from the finance
Yep.
department, was also there. There seems to be a lot of reticence on the part of the Board of Ed. They did ask for some references. We gave them references that encompass both BOE clients and BOE and town clients that are in state. Because one of the concerns that they voiced is that the teacher's retirement benefit is a complicated part of their payroll process. And they expressed concern that needs to be done correctly. And so that really was the biggest issue. They did talk about, if this is something that the town needs and the board doesn't need, could we go back to having 2 EIN numbers? Clearly we could, but I don't think that fits with the long range vision of the town.
Split it back in half. Completely.
We went in the direction that we went in several years ago for a variety of reasons, and we went from 2 EIN numbers to 1 EIN number to consolidate efforts and work together more closely. So I think that would be going backwards. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that, but that was a question that they asked. Rodney, you were there. Do you have anything to add?
I didn't leave there all warm and fuzzy. It was just kind of, they, they do have a complicated system and they, um, they don't want to be involved with the payroll system, but I think it's
Having
something-
done this before, it is a big undertaking, especially, I can't imagine it with that many
so,
employees.
so she's got,
And they did admit they still have paper processes for some of their employees,
Paper,
paper process
so.
well, we have paper processes for all of them,
for
right?
all of our
So-
employees, yes.
They're gonna review but she's got a whole staff she wanted to review.
I mean, are there, aside from like exploring using ADP, since they're not 100% paper, like, was there communication back and forth with them about processes that they may use that we could adopt that would make us more efficient without going in this direction?
The superintendent had another meeting, it was cut short.
Oh, okay.
There was no opportunity for further dialogue. We are working to schedule a second meeting, somewhere between the 21st and 28th of April.
And have we gotten an estimate from ADP what this would cost us on an annual basis? What was that?
It was 27,000 a year,
It was about 28,
was it for?
For the whole year, for
first 3
everybody?
Years.
yeah, and then it was, right, and then it was 40. The full cost would be 42 without any discounts.
Right.
And did we include that in this year's budget?
We included the 28
So how do we get from 28 to 42? Discounts.
discounts. That's how we got from 42 to 28
Okay.
discounts. We included it, it's in the administration
Budget.
budget.
Okay. And then what kind of training is the highway department doing?
What kind of training?
Yeah, you put,
Learning how to communicate appropriately within their department.
oh, so it's not work. I mean, it's HR, not, okay, understood.
Now, who's conducting that training?
A labor attorney named Kevin Green.
Nice.
It's been an area of struggle for that department. And it's very, very hard to, we've tried to find, like canned programs that would work for them, but
Yeah.
it really doesn't fit. And so Attorney Green is who we consult with from Halloran and Sage when we have employee issues. And he has agreed to do that for us with the highway group.
And we can pay for this out of current budget.
It'll come out of the administration legal line account.
And how often is he meeting with them over there?
Right now, we have one meeting scheduled for, I believe it's April 9th.
And then is it he'll report as to how that went and recommend further?
If he has any recommendations, he will share those with us, yes.
Are you planning to attend?
He and I have talked about that. I don't know that he's decided whether or not that's. The hope is that the employees will open up,
Mhm.
and there's a little bit of a fear that if I'm there, maybe they won't. So I think there's pros and cons to both.
Yeah,
Both sides of that coin.
just in terms of you absorbing whatever is taken, said and taken on. So that you can reinforce whatever, happens moving forward, so that we don't always have to turn to an outside source.
Yeah, I'm sure we made it on a day that I'm available, a date and time that I'm available.
But yeah, I can understand both.
Okay, so any other questions? Or are we moving on to number 13?
So do we need to vote on, we decided to make a meeting change. So we had originally said that the public hearing would be immediately following the AP, and then we would have a meeting immediately following the public hearing to discuss the selectman's salary, but we reversed those. So do we need to vote on that, or it's just,
In the agenda, shows up in the agenda, that one?
do we need to vote on the fact that we now want to have the
Yeah.
informational session prior to the public hearing and move the we do need to vote because we're moving the public hearing time.
Right,
So I would like to open the agenda to add that item.
yeah, so we can change it. Yeah, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, that's 7 yes.
I'll make a motion that we vote to move the budget presentation, public hearing from 6:30 on the 22nd to,
That's April
Is
22nd.
it 6:30 or 6?
yes, sorry, April 22nd. It was at 6:30. Or immediately following the AP meeting at 6 to immediately following the informational session on the first selectman's salary, which will be immediately following the AP meeting at 6.
Here we go. Now I'll second that.
So it's gonna be AP at 6, information session?
Yes,
Follow, and then,
And then after that, the finance committee meets, has the hearing, and then we.
okay,
Have our regular
Yeah,
meeting
and then
after
we have a regular meeting following
That
that,
makes
so that's why.
Yeah.
The change.
okay.
All in favor? Aye, aye. Motion passed. Number 13.
Yeah,
Is there
so
anything?
move.
Okay,
I'll second.
all in favor?
All right.
Aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.